kicked us off. Just the one try in the first half, but no shortage of highlights. The physicality, as we have come to expect from the women, and good skill as well, as Zahara Tamara prepares for kick-off in the second half. Her side, the Maori Ferns, leading 4-0. Half an hour to play, and it's the Indigenous All-Stars with that 4-point deficit to bridge, as they are led into the second half by Layla Fayoud. She's been strong for them in the first half, and they'll hope for a bit more ball and a bit more time in enemy territory than we saw them enjoy in the first half, Ben Eichen.
Yeah, if they get themselves some quality possession, good field position.
Here's a break, and here's a great chance for the Indigenous All-Stars. Their best play of the game, open territory, and they were cut down. It was Candy Kennedy racing away before the cover arrived.
Runs like that'll help, Matt.
They need that and a bit more. So they find themselves 22 metres out.
That was on the edge, that pass.
They almost overrun it. It was Talisha Harden who had to stop in her run. There's no stopping here. The ball outside. The Indigenous All-Stars jumping back at the angle to score. Shakaya Tungai crashes over to ignite the Indigenous All-Stars oh so early in the second half. From the right-hand side of the field, back to the left, where the Shack attack was waiting, Ben.
Not dissimilar to what the Maori Ferns did in the first half. Here's the break. Just a fantastic run that set up wonderful field position. Off the back of this, there was a couple of plays that settled things down, and then you know the All-Stars got the sense that there was space down the left, so they got the ball there. Beautiful hands, eyes up footy. They engaged the opposition defence, just straightened up the attack, and that's what created the overlap. Wonderful team try.
Amber Pilley playing her role well too, just holding the pass up before Shakaya Tungai jumped back to beat a couple of defenders and just improve her kick a little as we look at it again.
Just the old-fashioned draw and pass. A couple of times over. I think there was only the one block play, not too much structure. It was just simple, see the space, get the ball there as best you can.
So, Shakaya Tungai, the try scorer, who was part of St George Illawarra's premiership campaign last season, played all 3 games for the Dragons. As I mentioned, an Indigenous soccer player previously. And she can kick with both feet, but today she's using, I suspect, her preferred right foot. Tungai from out near the sideline, still bathed in sunshine on a beautiful warm afternoon in Melbourne. She gives it a really good look and hits an upright to leave us locked 4-all. Sideline Mark Gasnier.
Shakaya Tungai, she's been great tonight. Play too, she's been really good in providing a quick play the ball. You saw how much work she had to do there then to finish the try. A quick summary, Team Winners will be very, very happy with that. He wasn't worried about chasing points. He knew they could score points, but he wanted a bit more width in their passing to move this big Kiwi Ferns pack around. On the Ferns, on the other hand, they were ecstatic with the line speed in defence, but he told his edges to be wary, and that's proof right there.
Gaz is spot on. I think the message from Witters and the experience of our co-commentator would be invaluable in this second half for the Indigenous All-Stars. They can't go one out through the middle against the Maori Ferns. They'll get dominated and they need players in motion, multiple options. That's how they'll break them down. The one-out footy just won't cut the mustard.
Candy Kennedy just playing the ball. She was the one who made the break, then returned the kick-off. The Sydney Rooster, who played in that grand final game last season. She's been really good to start the second half. Give it back to Candy Kennedy. As we see Tegan Hartz also impress us in this third quarter. 3 or 4 15-minute quarters. There's a knock-on by the Indigenous All-Stars. They can't complete the set after points. That golden rule broken. Playing the ball, it was Amber Carney. And now Weber. Rota keeps the ball going the same way for Hapuku, who gets the ball away. A chance here for the Maori. Here's a big show for the Maori Ferns with Jonsel Totari crossing in the corner. Belinda Sleeman wants to confer and she'll send it upstairs. We will go to the video referee.
We've got no try. Confirm held up, please.
Jared Maxwell, Henry Perinara waiting in the bunker. And for the first time in 2019, over to you, Bunker.
Yeah. Look at the numbers that the Indigenous All-Stars getting the tackle here. Tatari, obviously very strong. Had to be to get herself across the line. But will she be strong enough to ground the ball? No, I think hands slip off the ball before it's grounded. And there'll be nowhere near enough evidence based on what we've seen so far to overrule what was decided on field. Great work, Indigenous All-Stars.
When they were dominated in terms of possession and territory in the first half, it was their urgency in defence that kept them in the game. And it's on show again early in this third quarter.
Based on the live decision of no try, there's insufficient evidence to suggest that the ball is hit the ground. However, the hair of the ball carrier goes touching goal. We have a decision.
With their energy and effort in defence, and now they've just got to settle themselves down, get themselves back into the game and get up the other end of the field.
She looked destined to score. Totari, instead it's the Indigenous All-Stars crossing their 30-metre line. A good crowd building at Amy Park before the men's All-Stars to follow later tonight. Layla Fayoud. She works in the mines, has taken time off to be part of this week and the Indigenous celebration.
Good run.
I like what Hannah Hollis called it, a cauldron earlier on tonight. A cauldron of culture, I think it was. As the Maori Ferns keep it alive and keep it in the field of play.
And this is where you can start to lose your rhythm. It's clear now the Indigenous All-Stars are finding space as we see their male brothers there watching on and getting themselves ready for the big fixture. Latrell Mitchell tipped to lead the war dance, is that right?
Yeah.
The role that Greg Inglis has in previous years. Tell you what, there's some speed between those two there.
And that's a good choice, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
No GI, so Trell steps up having said, you know what, Roosters, can I really celebrate my culture, my people? I want to be part of this Indigenous celebration.
But back to the women's game, and Indigenous All-Stars have just lost their rhythm. There's no doubt now that they're finding some space, but they can't get too excitable and start to get loose with the football.
Totari. Again, proving a handful, isn't she? Matua still going. Kelly Matua. A couple of Indigenous players around each ankle. Amber Pili lucky not to be penalised for that second effort in the tackle. They fan out back to the left, but keep it close to the ruck for the time being. Plenty of wrestle in that tackle with Layla Fayoud. It was Amber Carney giving no room to get up. And now Harata Butler still going. 12 metres out, final play. Here come the Maori Ferns, perfectly positioned. It's Crystal Rota. Her pass finds Karangi Peters, but again, the defence is up to the job, and one of the littlest players on the field, Quincy Dodd, has come up with a big play.
She has. It's simple but effective from the Maori Ferns. Ball play drifts across the field, and big body straightens into the hole. It's hard to contain. They use it on both sides of the ruck. But again, the Indigenous All-Stars are up to the challenge.
Well, here we are. What is it? February 15 at Amy Park in Melbourne. Less than a month down the track. Thursday, March 14. The NRL Premiership start here when the Melbourne Storm host Brisbane. The start of the post-Billy Slater era at the Storm and the start of the Anthony Seibold era at the Broncos. You'll see it on Fox League. The countdown is on. Less than a month to go. As the big hits keep coming well before the NRL Premiership.
Wira is having the game for all games. That was a great shot.
If there's been a better player on the field, I haven't spotted her. Carolina Wira setting up the first try. Defensively rock solid. She's been fantastic. This is Tyler Birch, the only try scorer for the Maori Ferns. In fact, the 2 5s are the only try scorers. Birch and Tungai. The 2 left wingers. Rota finds Karangi Peters on the charge. Straight into the grasp of Rebecca Young, the Indigenous captain. She admitted there is fire in the belly after she was overlooked for the NRL Women's Premiership. She's back on an elite stage tonight, Rebecca Young, defending middle of the ground. An opportunity as they create numbers to the left and get the ball away. It's Wira waiting, releasing, and now Totari. She disappears beneath a mountain of Indigenous defenders.
Some offloads there, some good footwork. It was a little unstructured, so it was hard to predict what was coming, but again, the scramble from the Indigenous All-Stars has been magnificent all game. It's generally the best sign of enthusiasm. It's not about the tackles you drop off or the tackles you miss. It's about your preparedness to cover for your teammate that makes the error. And they're across there in droves.
There have been plenty of players driven backwards and slammed on their back in this one, and it continues. And as Lena Nona Bush then can't complete the play the ball, so they gift the Maori Ferns some fantastic position here.
Was that a knee or was that a head knock, a little wobbly? That looks wobbly to me.
Well, if that's the replay, Benny, that is a definite HIA.
Yeah.
Little wobbly. Where's the ball? Which ball is it? How about I just tread over the top of it?
Either way, it's been ruled to be a mistake. And this relentless attack from the Maori Ferns will continue. Just watch for this play, this pet play. The playmaker just...
Down the short side, but Teal Vetti Welsh goes within 10 metres. Now they fan out to the right. And it's Weber. Still standing within 5 metres. Rotha tells us which way it is going, but they keep it close to the ruck again. A bit of second phase here after the offload. Crystal Rota just in front of the uprights. Now they look for some width and some room. The Maori Ferns wrapped up one-on-one. What a tackle. Brilliant play from the Indigenous All-Stars. Still they've got to defend. Sahara Tamara plays it quickly. Rota back to the big contact on Lena Nona Bush.
It's just relentless, isn't it?
It was Rhona Peters and Hanata Butler levelling the Indigenous All-Stars runner. You cannot take your eye off the defenders for a moment. Tungai kicks straight down to Tyler Birch. And that is the end of the third. It is tight at Amy Park in the women's. Dean, a veteran of 159 NRL games with the Roosters, the Eels and the Rabbitohs. He's done great work in the health and wellbeing area of rugby league, now part of the Pathways program. Been at the NRL for 7 years. He'll be CEO before he knows it, Dean Widders.
Yeah. Well, one of the smarter footballers I've played against.
He was great with his time this week. Crystal Rota has passed her HIA for the Maori Ferns. And as we've mentioned earlier on, Ben Eichen, you're back to host NRL 360 on Fox League starting soon. But before that, you're off to Toowoomba on Thursday for the Queensland PGA. You've been training, I believe, with Maddie Guy. So I did a bit of research this week and saw a quote from Maddie in reference to you. Ben is an amazing athlete. Yep. Now, I'll be honest, I almost choked on the cornflakes as I read that, because I wonder whether amazing athlete is a moniker you still like to wear.
Yeah, look, he's a well-paid coach.
Speaking of amazing athletes, Laurie Dale.
Yeah.
But Matty Guy.
Don't know if I've ever beaten Loz on the golf course. But no, yes, I'm off to the Queensland PGA at City Golf Club in Toowoomba next week. It's the 10th anniversary of the tournament being played at that particular course. So it's great. It's going to be a great experience. You know, I've developed a healthy respect for anyone and everyone that makes a quid out of the game of golf, let me tell you that. Just like I'm respecting the effort from these two sides here today, it has been magnificent. The last 15 minutes of this match is going to be edgy of your seat stuff.
One big quarter to play. Who will win it? The Indigenous All-Stars or the Maori Ferns? One try each so far. Conceding nothing defensively, each team. All 36 players will know they've been involved in a rugby league game tomorrow, including this runner, Rebecca Young, the 37-year-olds, the former Jillaroo, back leading her Indigenous team. Now Amber Pilley. It's been a good start to the final quarter by the Indigenous team. A well-crafted set. They arrive at tackle 5. And it comes now for the kick. High above Amy Park, out towards, it's knocked on by the Indigenous team. And regathered, but it will be a possession turnover. Straight to the Maori Ferns. Mark Gasnier, what's going to happen in the final 15?
Well, I can't tell you, but I can tell you what both teams' strengths are. The Ferns, they've played through them. All their line breaks have come, as Benny alluded to earlier. The big bodies on the edge going straight through the smaller Indigenous All-Stars team, whereas the Indigenous team, it's come off the two-pass play, the real wide play, the line breaks out wide. The only problem is they're falling into error, the Indigenous All-Stars. I think it's going to come down to the kicking games, to be honest. Zahara Tamara, she's very crafty with the kicking. The Indigenous team, they need to get that spot on, and if they do, I think the Indigenous All-Stars will prevail.
The penalties locked at 3-3. It's less than a month until round 1 of the NRL. Melbourne hosting Brisbane Thursday, March 14. Aren't there some big storylines for NRL 360 in that game alone, Ben? What stands out, Melbourne-Brisbane? No Billy, Anthony Seibold?
I think, look, Billy's my all-time favourite player. We saw the campaign the whole of rugby league went on last year to get him to play in that grand final. Such as is important to the game and the club, and to see how Melbourne perform without him. I mean, it's just such a great system down here. And, you know, they've got other options, but boy, oh boy, no Billy Slater. That's got to hurt.
Look forward to that first Melbourne team being announced and see who plays where. Hapuku releases the ball for Betty Welsh. Really good in the custodian role. Happy to inject herself into the attack right there. Prota cleared of that HIA scare. 15 metres out. The Maori Ferns. Peters through Hapuku. Now Tamara. And this is Betty Welsh wrapped up. No way through this Indigenous defence for the time being.
Another great tackle from Tungai there.
Final play, it's a grubber. Zahara Tamara splits the goalpost, still there, and they force a goal line dropout. Well weighted, forcing a play by the Indigenous All-Stars.
Gaz nailed it. I mean, a good fit tackle option just compounds any and all good work you come up with in the preceding 5 tackles. Look at this. On a string.
So Sharon McGrady just cramping up, as I mentioned, a warm afternoon in Melbourne, and gives us the chance to plug another busy schedule for the women's games, starting with this All-Stars encounter. There are 4 international teams bound for the World Cup Nines in October. We'll have a Women's National Championship played May 30 to June 2, and of course back this year, the Women's State of Origin at North Sydney Oval. Wasn't that a highlight of 2018? And the 4 weeks of NRL Women's Premiership action.
I'm a Queenslander, mate. The Blues got up in that one. No, look, the female Queenslanders did us proud, and they'll be back at the grindstone under coach. Yeah, it looks worrisome, and that's a shame for the Indigenous All-Stars. She has got points in her.
25-year-old Sharon McGrady carried from the ground, so they'll have to come up with a fill-in half-back for the back end of this game. 11 and a half to play. And it's Haruka Butler. 25 out. A chance here for the Maori Ferns. Inside the red zone, that 20-metre zone. It is just a cramp for McGrady, so they're trying to free her of that trouble. Have they got the pickle juice sideline or something similar? Get some salt into the bloodstream.
Oh, that's unlucky.
A mistake and a big one.
Kerry Matua, I believe, has been as good as Wira in this match. Just the power and force she's been exhibiting through the middle, it's just unbelievable. Holds onto that and generally gets a quick play of the ball, but not in that instance. Probably needed that, the Indigenous All-Stars. They looked like they were building towards something, the Maori Ferns.
10.5 to play. 1 try each. Even though it's low scoring, it's fair to say that the quality has been there.
Listen, this has not felt like a 4-all match.
No. Really strong break from Candy Kennedy. Sticks in the minds. The ball movement for both tries to Tyler Birch and Shakaya Tungai. Some of the tackles never ceasing to amaze. We shouldn't be surprised, and there's another one on Layla Fayoud. On cue from the Maori Ferns.
Bit of anger there from Kerry Matua over that drop ball coming out. Here we go. Oh, left shoulder just rocks the head. I felt that up here.
And now the kick from the Indigenous All-Stars. It appeared to be knocked on, but play will continue. It's been retrieved by Shaylee Bent, who did really, really well amidst all those bodies to gather cleanly in the eyes of the referees. So Maguire passes for Tungai, who kicks across the ground. Amber Pilley gets there on the full and takes the final tackle.
Yeah, that was a clever play from the Maori Ferns. Just let Pilley take the ball. Don't do anything stupid. You join the contest in the end, there's the risk in defence that you end up knocking on and giving the opposition another set of 6. Maybe a 1-point advantage, even if it is 6, 7, 8 minutes out from full time. Mightn't be a stupid idea.
Well, they're at the wrong end of the ground to think about that for the time being, the Maori Ferns. They'll look to build a good set and explore their options at the back end of it. Crystal Rota running herself out of dummy half.
Rota has terrorised the Indigenous All-Stars.
She's been really effective as Geneva Webber weaves her way upfield.
Another good run.
Over halfway in enemy territory now. The Maori Ferns as Wira crashes forward.
Great tackle. Good run, even better hit.
Michaela Maguire involved in that. Shaylee Bent also putting her body in front of the much bigger ball runner. And now Crystal Stowers. A really difficult week for Crystal on the family front. Our thoughts are with her and her family. And it's a credit to her to be out there applying herself to a game at rugby league. Charged down, not picked up, knocked on with open territory in front of her. And it's opportunity missed for Kyara Neen. She'd done the hard work. In fact, it was Samantha Leisha, I think, with the ball on her fingertips.
It just looked like it was going to bounce up at the last moment. We'll see here. This is such a difficult decision to make in the live concert. Oh, she reached out for it, and it was just beyond the fingertips.
It was Samantha Leisha.
You could feel her pain, couldn't you?
The borders needed to be a bit higher as Rota now drops it. The toll of the tough All-Stars game starting to show. Quincy Dodd, just 18 years of age, Quincy.
Talia Hunter getting right under the ball there. That hit on Rota.
The Indigenous All-Stars looking for territory as Talia Hunter takes the tackle. Hilda Mariu was the defensive player on show for the Maori Ferns. Now Caitlin Johnston, the youngest player in this Indigenous lineup, maybe the youngest on the field. In jumper 12 for the Indigenous All-Stars.
They just need to start moving them around a bit, the Indigenous All-Stars. A couple of changes in direction. If they get to the end of the set, make the kick.
Did very well. She has been really good at the back for the Maori Ferns. This is Totari passing and finding her fellow centre, Amber Carney. Part of the Warriors in the NRL Women's Premiership. She played with the Kiwi Ferns as well. The number 4 playing the ball. That was last year, 2018. Maori are looking to get involved as the Indigenous All-Stars defend with 12 players on the field. Now Rota, no doubt aware of that. And the signal from the trainer of the Indigenous All-Stars is stop the game. So concern for the injured player. And I think it's Layla Fayoud in back play. And it looks like she'll be able to shake off any problems she's picked up in that contact. Nothing too serious there. So some fresh legs onto the ground as Amber Pilley looks ready to go, doesn't she? Rebecca Young, the captain of this Indigenous team, just checking on her injured player before heading back into her defensive corridor. The Maori Ferns locked at 4 with the Indigenous All-Stars. Watch the game breaker here. The groan there from Ben Ikin was because of a possible, maybe definite forward pass. Last play, Maori Ferns. Hapuku kicking high across field. And it's put down by the Indigenous All-Stars. This could be play on. Amber Carney still going. And the tackle count restarts. It was touched. Golden possession here for the Maori Ferns. Rota out of dummy half. Can she get to ground for what could be the All-Stars winner? Crystal Rota, the co-captain, comes up with a co-captain's knock.
What a star. Seriously. Best player on the field today. Smart, energetic, and has a great sense for the moment. And she owned this one. Shakaya Tungai did not deserve this. Has had such a good game. Threw herself at the ball. Knew how important it was to be up there and amongst it. Came up with the error. And then Crystal Rota spotted the smallest of spaces as she's been doing all game. Got herself across the try line for what is it? A very telling try.
Played all 3 games last September for the Warriors. She'll be back there again in 2019 in a leadership role. As I mentioned, her famous footy dad, Roger, part of this Maori Ferns setup. So a success for father and daughter right there on screen, as it turns out.
He's got that ability that the great modern dummy halves do. Cameron Smith, I think, started it. It's, we call it eyes up footy, but every time they go into the play the ball, when they're in attack, they're scanning the opposition defence to see where the opportunities lie. As long as their teams are in shape, more often than not, they will make the right choice. Whether it's run, pass, go to the numbers, whatever it may be. And she took the right choice again there.
Zahara Tamara trying to kick the Maori All-Stars clear by 6. 8-4. That's the assignment for Zahara. Gives it a good look. Zahara Tamara just bringing it back across the face. Still time for the Indigenous All-Stars, Mark Gasnier.
Is there what? I'll tell you what, but Crystal Rota, no wonder she was so close to being the Dally M medalist in 2018. Benny mentioned smart, energetic, or not to mention tough. You saw the big shiner underneath her right eye. She went off. She did not want to stay out of this game. Pleaded to go straight back on. They put her on, and she's picked her times when to run. But I tell you what, do not write off the Indigenous All-Stars. They showed when they're prepared to shift this ball wide, they create opportunities. It's going to be a great finish.
And Gaz, with a view to the rest of the night, there is a good atmosphere building down there.
A really good one. I just had the Indigenous All-Star men's behind me, and that was coincidentally when the Indigenous All-Stars women were defending their line, and you should have seen the passion they showed. I think it's a sign of what's to come tonight.
Can't wait for that one later this evening. You'll see it on Fox Footy. Andrew Voss, Kevy Walters, Gaz is hanging around as well.
As long as you don't refer to Benny Eichen as an athlete again.
It wasn't me, it was his golf trainer, Matty Guyett. I'm with you, Gaz.
Does he wear glasses?
Kerry Matua playing the ball just into Indigenous territory. Now, Harata Butler, who's been effective in this second half, and there it is again, the offload for Haputu. Teo Haputu playing the ball. Rota, Zahara Tamara. On it goes now for Crystal Stowers. She gets the ball away. Kevin Matua. The carries and runs for Matua in this game. Phenomenal. Rota called by Tamara. She wants to kick. In behind the defence and coming through to pick it up, the Indigenous All-Stars with 2 minutes 50 to play. Still have time. This is Bence trying to bend the line, but if the Maori Ferns hang on, the defence will be a key part to it as you see it again. Harata Butler throwing herself at the Indigenous All-Stars runner. And it was Talia Hunter stopped on the spot. Wouldn't a compilation of big hits in this game make good viewing?
Yeah. R-rated.
They'll get a couple more sets, the Indigenous All-Stars, but they want to find enemy territory as Tungai again kicks across the ground. It puts it straight on the chest of Johnsel Totari.
Just not sure if the teammates were ready for that. Here's the big hit from Butler. Yeah. We've seen that numerous times across this match. Just the timing and the contact from the Maori Ferns, particularly the bigger bodies, has just been spot on.
Great execution, throwing her body, making contact, middle of the chest, arm wrapping around.
But just to adjust to mid-run, you know, so that the balance some of these bigger bodies show to be able to shift as the opposition player moves across the field and still make the contact right in the sweet spot.
So players cramping up for both teams now. We've already seen players forced off with cramp. I said it's warm. It's not that hot in Melbourne this afternoon, is it?
No.
Not enough salt in the diet, girls.
Maybe.
A few pickles on the hamburgers for lunch.
Is that your theory?
Yeah. Works for me, Ben. I don't cramp up much.
Yeah, I won't try it.
I want you to have some pickles Thursday morning. A long and arduous day ahead of you.
So minute 43 to go. Maori Ferns will probably take this down to under the minute mark. I'd say go for the repeat set to close out the match. So Indigenous All-Stars are going to have to hope and pray for the mistake. But if they only get that 4 tackles at the back end of the match, well, then they just cannot go one out. They need to throw the ball around. They've got the skill, they've got the speed. So if they get one more chance, they need to make best use of it.
Zahara Tamara forced from the field as Rona Peters comes on as her replacement. The Maori Ferns ahead by 4 points, 90 seconds to play in the Women's All-Stars game. The execution and game management from Crystal Rota prominent in this second half. Here's Rona Peters out for Betty Welsh. The last play for the Maori Ferns. It will come 20 metres out from the Indigenous goal line. Peters kicks high across the field into that roll. The ball knocked on. It's there for the Maori Ferns, and diving over to claim the try, it is Amber Carney.
Jared, I've got tackle 6.
He's going to check it.
I have no try. Looking to confirm the knock-on from Maoris in the contest there.
Yeah, I think there might be a double knock-on. Was the first one from the Indigenous All-Stars?
Leaders onside.
Goes backwards here off the Indigenous All-Stars. I don't think it... That's backwards. All right.
There's your knock on.
Yep. Scrum feed to the Indigenous. They need to create some momentum through the middle or down the right. And they won't do that going one out. So we need to see some variety here in this last set. Can't be settler trick shot. Almost needs to be a trick shot every time they take the ball up.
They should get 4 or 5 tackles.
Bodies in motion.
To try and score from long range. There's been
See,
no way through.
1 out, 4 players in the tackle. It's not going to get them the momentum that they need.
Demaya Kelly signs with the first run of the set. Now they head towards the edge.
Now they need to play off the back of this. It can't be another settler. Go to numbers.
Shakai Tungai finds Amber Pilley. Now the ball moves away from them as that defence continues the trend for the Maori Ferns. Copybook tackle. Across the fields. No way through for the Indigenous All-Stars. Seconds ticking away. Final play of the game. And that is a win for the Maori Ferns. A fantastic game of Women's All-Stars Rugby League. And it's the Maori Ferns playing in this All-Stars game for the first time who prevail. 2 tries to 1, 8 points to 4.